From bad to worse for the Washington Wizards, rookie Tre Johnson will miss at least a couple of weeks with a left hip flexor strain. This stinks.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
DC family, you are locked on to the Washington Wizards, where you're part of our family. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team, the Washington Wizards, every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Alongside the DC sports content creating Strober and Abdullah Youbi, I'm Ben Strober, and I cover the Wizards for Roundtable.io. That's a new development for me. If you want to go check out some of my first articles, they're up at roundtable.io/wizards. I'll link that in the description as well. AB, Tre Johnson, out for at least a couple of weeks. Man, it continues to get harder and harder to deal with the Wizards right now.
Yeah, right now you're dealing with a 14-game skid for our lovely Wizards, and now you're losing your 6th overall pick for a couple of weeks. This hurts, but it kind of does make sense, Ben. We were talking about it, how Tre Johnson these past couple of games been only given 19 minutes, 17 minutes, 17 minutes, and we're kind of questioning that. But now with this news coming out, it kind of makes sense, and we're hoping that he has a full recovery because we want this kid to be a key piece here in the future.
Absolutely. So Brian Keefe made the announcement today after practice from the MedStar Healthcare Center in D.C., and he said, essentially Tre Johnson will be out at least a couple of weeks. Didn't give the timetable whether it was 2 to 3, but he said at least a couple of weeks before he'll be reevaluated from there with a left hip flexor strain. And this injury predates his time in the NBA, something he sustained while he was playing at the University of Texas last year, literally carrying that team with a 30% usage rate, with a strained left hip flexor, and he's been playing through that pain. And Keefe alluded to the fact saying, this is a super tough kid. He was playing despite him being hurt and playing on a unannounced minutes restriction, essentially. So, to all the people, including us, who are saying, hey, why aren't we not seeing Tre Johnson play X amount of minutes? Why is he not playing 30-plus like some of the other rookies in the league? And there's the answer, and it's unfortunate that it's come to this late. And I think this throws a big wrench into what the Wizards are trying to accomplish this season. And obviously, it's just a couple of weeks as it stands right now before they reevaluate Tre Johnson. But this year, the only thing that even matters for this Wizards team is seeing individual development from a lot of these players. And you can point to things like Alex Sarr, which have been a success so far outside of missing the 2 games. Keyshawn George, who's been a major, major revelation as he's broken out here in year number 2 and put together some really great performances for this team. Cam Whitmore, who's come along in a big way over the last 7 games for the Wizards. But your number 6 overall pick in Tre Johnson, that's a dude that has to hit for your organization in order to take that next step. And obviously you don't expect him to be your cornerstone franchise player, but he has the potential with his shooting ability to become your solidified, really phenomenal number 2 or 3 option on this team in the future. A guy that can score and give you multiple 3-pointers every single night and give you a lot on that side of the basketball. Now that you lose a little bit of the time you have to develop him in his rookie year, I just think it hurts a little bit because of what the goal was for this team this year. The fact that he was already playing on a slight minutes restriction, it's a loss for you in a way because you're not getting to see his full potential as rookie season. I'm not going to say this will have any effect on what happens throughout the remainder of his career because he has so much time to come back from this injury and pick up where he left off, but it's unfortunate that we're not really foreseeing the rookie season we had envisioned for him in terms of playing 30 minutes a game and figuring himself out and becoming an elite scorer already in his rookie season.
And for those people that are really stressing out about the recovery timeline, shout out to our boy Greg Feinberg on X. He said, for recovery timeline purposes, Stephon Castle has the same injury, and the Spurs said he's expected to miss 2 to 3 weeks. So maybe it'll be similar to that. But one thing for sure, Ben, I guess the silver lining is that this team is taking injuries very seriously. There's no go out there and you're forced to play. They understand what the goal is. At the end of the day, you want to keep that top 8 pick, and going out there and throwing Tre Johnson when he's not 100% is just risk for a long-term injury. And we've seen that in the past with organizations outside of the NBA where they just force young guys to play. I mean, we know it. We're big Washington fans. So right now, if you're a Wizards fan, it is frustrating to see your top rookie go out because outside of Keyshawn George and Alex Sarr, maybe Bilal Coulibaly and the Cam Whitmore stands, Tre Johnson was a guy that you're going to watch throughout the whole 82 games this season where you understand you're not going to win a lot of games, but Tre can go out there and shoot it from lights out. Transition threes are unbelievable. Defensively, obviously, there's still a long way to go, but I think let the kid rest. We're not competing right now. We're on a 14-game skid. See if you can figure out his minutes after he comes back. I do wonder when he comes back what his minutes will look like, and it's just be patient. Like you can't be so critical of Tre. He's a rookie, and injuries are a real thing in today's NBA. And he's a young guy, and like you mentioned, he was given a lot of tasks to handle when he was at Texas. So transitioning to NBA, it's a difficult transition, but I think he can handle it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I like you bring up the point saying that the organization is very delicate with injuries because the NBA right now as a whole literally decimated by injuries. And a lot of these calf injuries that we've seen have turned into Achilles injuries, which will put you out for an entire season of your career. That's why teams like Indiana are literally competing for the number one pick right now. Boston struggling to find its footing without Jason Tatum, one of the best players in the league right now. And the Wizards were cautious with Alex Sarr. After he was shut down with a calf injury in the Eurobasket, they kept him shut down through most of training camp. He played in limited action in the preseason, and then he was limited to about 20 minutes per game for the first couple games of the season. So the Wizards are cautious with injuries. And when you have young players like this Wizards team has, and even Bilal Coulibaly, you could point to that, him missing 4 games with the calf injury as of recently. When your team is so young, like Washington's is, third youngest in the NBA, you have to treat this process very delicately because you're trying to develop these young players, but at the same time, you're not out there competing, trying to win enough games to the playoffs or get you to the next level. If that's not the priority, you have to take all these injuries super seriously. I mean, they should be taking them seriously anyway, but you don't run the risk of losing a player for an extended period of time when the games for wins and losses don't essentially matter. All you want to see is them develop on a night-in, night-out basis. And yeah, it's like a slight setback here for Tre Johnson if he does indeed miss like 2 to 3 weeks like Stephon Castle's timeline for the injury that we saw. If that's the case, then that's best case scenario. Then you see Tre Johnson come back. Hopefully they ramp him up a little bit over a couple game span. Then you get him up to speed. Maybe you see him start to play the significant minutes that some of the other rookies in the NBA have played. As I was doing my article table, I was just poking around looking at the NBA rookie minutes to see where in relation his minutes were. Tre Johnson playing at 23.9. Is that right? Let me double
Sounds
check
about
to
right,
make sure.
sure.
Yeah, no, 22.9. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So just basically 23 minutes per game for Tre Johnson on average, with the last 3 kind of dwindling that a little bit, playing in 17 twice and then 19 against Toronto. It's still 8th most amongst NBA rookies, and I know we complain a lot that we don't see him enough, and I think we didn't see him enough from a time, but obviously it makes a lot more sense now with Brian Keefe announcing that he had been dealing with the injury, so it makes a lot more sense that you're not seeing him play significant minutes. The only 3 guys in the NBA right now to play really, really significant minutes, and I'm talking 30-plus amongst the rookies, are VJ Edgecombe, Con Knippel, who's lighting things up right now for Charlotte, and Cooper Flagg. So you expected Flagg and Edgecombe to be significant impact players early on because of the situations they were in, and it's funny it's turned out this way for Dallas where they stink, and now Cooper Flagg is trying to solidify himself as the star player on a bad team, but it just ended up working out that way. I expect when he comes back, and if he is fully healthy, that you see him play at least 27 to 28 minutes per game, because I don't think there's any reason he shouldn't when he's fully healthy. Now that we know the information with the injury, I give it a pass, and obviously I think the Wizards made the right decision to hold him out for the time being. So, Keefe, I apologize.
I think we all owe him an apology, Ben.
Well, I wish there was a little bit of transparency throughout the process. I know it's part of the gamesmanship. Brian Keefe doesn't like to reveal too much. He's always joking around in the media room, like with Varun Shankar. Varun would always try to ask him like a very specific question about lineups and who's going to play what minutes, and he's always like, I'm not going to answer that question. And Keefe is very tight-lipped. The whole organization as a whole is very tight-lipped, so I can't say I'm surprised that they had him on this unannounced minutes restriction, but you do wish you had that kind of transparency early on. But at the end of the day, it's not too big of a deal. Hopefully you see him back out there pretty soon.
Yeah, and I'm thinking the second half of the season will be much better considering the fact that some of these guys on this team, the vets, will not be on this roster and maybe his usage will go up. But yeah, I think it's just a minor setback for a major comeback. He has a lot of games left for his rookie year, and it does make me wonder, Ben, who steps up in the rotation. Does a guy like AJ Johnson finally see the court outside of like the last 2 minutes of a game? We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can point for the rotation and who steps up next. In fact, we should tackle that next. Let's take our first break. When we come back, let's talk about who steps up with Tre Johnson out. Nobody knows your money goals better than you. Robinhood puts you in control of your money with tools that work as hard as you do. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again, channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks, ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all in one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You can expect more from yourself, expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. When I'm hydrated, everything just works better. My focus, energy, mood, even my skin. That's why I've been using Drip Drop. It's doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like. Drip Drop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands. Using a science-baked formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of the top college and pro teams. I like using Drip Drop, part of my daily routine. I just mix a packet in the morning before the gym or during that midday slump like right now, and it tastes amazing. It gets me through the day every time. My go-to flavor is lemon lime, and it's become my secret weapon for staying sharp and energized throughout these long days. Hydration's become a non-negotiable for me. It should be for you as well. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNBA for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. Well, the door is open, a window of opportunity for somebody off the bench to make some noise for this Wizards organization. There's plenty of young guys that are looking to get minutes and solidify themselves as a piece of the rotation. AB, any early indications from you think could step up here with Tre Johnson on the mend?
I think the other first round pick from this year, Ben, Will Riley. Will Dawkins mentioned in the Junkies interview that he's a guy that learned a lot from the Capital City Go-Go from those 2 games that he played, and we're hoping to see him more. Not just the fourth quarter, like actually given minutes. I think it was the recent game where he was only given a couple minutes in the first half, but just never saw him again. And the whole idea of him being thrown in as a point guard, I don't mind seeing what he can do in that position, because right now you don't really have a pro point guard on this team. And I think giving Keyshawn George that task might be a little too much. I understand Keyshawn George has the capability of it, but wanting him to play defense, also being a point guard, just giving him a lot of tasks for a year 2 guy. I think see what you can get from Will Riley. I think he was a guy who, coming into the Wizards, I didn't think much of him going into the season. I thought he was going to be a lot of playing time with the Capital City Go-Go. But I think with this Tre Johnson injury, maybe it could open up opportunities for him. And maybe it could also open up opportunities for AJ Johnson. I mean, AJ Johnson has quite the fan club here in D.C., and he showed you some flashes last season. I think it was a game against the Nets where he was hitting clutch shots at the end of the game, and he had a nice reverse dunk. See what you have in him. And again, he's a guy that you're not assigning him to the Capital City Go-Go, so it doesn't make sense for him to be on the bench throughout the whole season. Again, this is about the youth movement. I alluded to this last pod where I was like, if you're under 24, play at least 24 minutes. And I think both of those guys are under 24. So those are the 2 guys that I think will step up. We'll just have to see. And a lot of people are going to be questioning Coach Keefe now that Tre Johnson, how the rotation will look like. But Will Dawkins reiterates the fact that the rotation is going to shrink, so let's see if it actually comes to life.
I point to some early indication maybe that we see Jameer Watkins actually get some minutes, because if you're just looking up and down on the roster in terms of players at the guard position who could get some minutes. Jameer Watkins, when he's gotten his opportunities, he's only played in 4 games so far this season. He's impressed me when he's been out there. He made life difficult for Donovan Mitchell. I know the offensive game is not there for him yet, and I know he's also spending some time with the go-go, but why not? This is a player that you drafted in the second round with the 43rd overall pick. He should be out there getting minutes for you at some point because you know he's going to give you the effort that you need defensively. And from everything from just defending on ball, the perimeter with his athleticism, picking up 94 feet, reading passing range, Jameer Watkins can do all of that. But if you want to develop him to take the next step as a player, he needs to get some reps offensively. Another thing I wanted to bring up with Jameer Watkins, with him being a 43rd overall pick, there are other teams in the NBA right now, and I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but there are guys who were drafted after Watkins in the second round that are seeing significant time. I think Oklahoma City has a guy that's averaging like 20 points or something, somebody that was taken later in the draft. I'd have to double check who that exactly was, but I think Oklahoma City has a dude that's going crazy.
I'm not even surprised. I just know how to do everything right.
Exactly. I'll double check who that exactly was. I should know that as a guy that's following the NBA and covering it, but I'm just drawing a blank right now, and I'm looking at something else. But with Watkins being in that position, like, it should be a priority that you have to also try to develop him and get him minutes at the NBA level. In terms of other candidates, a guy that's probably going to play more because of this, even though I don't really know how I feel about it, because he's a very good player, I just don't know what his future holds here, is Corey Kispert. Obviously, he got his first start of the season the other day with Middleton out, Tre Johnson out. He got the start, and he went crazy in that game against Chicago. Put up his season-high 20 points. He looked very efficient when doing it. He was aggressive. He attacked the rim, and even got everyone up out of their seats with a big-time dunk. Corey Kispert's a good player, and I think he gets a lot of heat from this fan base because he's not a very good defender, and he's obviously predated from the previous regime, and it seems like his future might not be as long, here in D.C. as maybe people would have imagined a couple of years ago. But Corey Kispert is a damn good offensive player. He can get it done for you night in, night out. And I think he's going to play pretty significant minutes. Like, if you're going to say the Wizards are playing minutes based on who's earned them, Corey Kispert's earned himself some minutes. And I know it's been kind of up and down in terms of how many minutes he's played. But if the Wizards are serious about showcasing him because they actually have interest in trading him at the deadline to somebody, this might be the opportunity where he can do it here for a couple of weeks before Tre Johnson comes back. It's going to be interesting to see what his role looks like when Johnson's out.
Yeah, and I think that 20-point game against the Bulls, as much as I love CK Ben, I just think it was an outlier of a game. I think realistically, Corey Kispert is a guy that can give you 10 and 12 points a night. That dunk, I loved it in transition. The three-point shot, it's been hidden recently. But I think due to the fact that he wasn't a Will Dawkins guy, he was a draft pick from the previous regime, it just wouldn't make sense to hold on to him for the whole year. I think he will be gone post-trade deadline. And that performance did increase his trade value. And with Kispert probably on the move, with Middleton and CJ McCollum onto a different team, that opens up hopefully more minutes in the second half of the season for Justin Champagnie, for Will Riley, for Jameer Watkins, for a Tre Johnson when he comes back fully healthy. I think the youth movement will go into full effect like we saw last season post-trade deadline when you got rid of Kuzma, and I think the team will play much faster and hopefully much better because, again, you don't want to have another. I mean, you're already on a 14-game losing streak, but you don't want to match it in the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's tough to lose as many games as they are right now. And AB, you sent me that screenshot today from Instagram. Do you want to let everybody know what you saw?
Yeah, so it was hilarious, guys. So I'm looking at CJ McCollum's Instagram, and he posted, and I was like, it was on my feed, so I was like, I might as well check out the comments because Wizards have only won one game so far this season. And someone commented, "Y'all gotta win a game, fam. This is crazy." And then CJ McCollum replied saying, "Facts!" Exclamation point! Exclamation point! And the guy said, "You still the GOAT, though." So even CJ McCollum, he's tired of the losing. I mean, he's played with really good teams so far throughout his NBA career, and he even understands that they need to win the game. They need to break this losing streak. And I mean, you have Atlanta coming up, and we'll preview that game. You have Indiana next. Maybe you can win the Indiana game because they're decimated with injuries. But again, Ben, are we going to see this Wizards team that played against how they did against Chicago, where you competed up until the final second? Or is it going to be like Brooklyn, where you just let up 30 points at home? It's just very inconsistent. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been kind of an outlier the way they played the other day in terms of intensity. Hopefully, it's something that can actually, materialize into more consistency for this team because as it stands right now, them playing that well was not a common thing for this team. Oh, so by the way, I figured out who it was. It was Tyrese Proctor
Yeah,
for
on the
Cleveland.
Cavaliers. Yeah, because you said Oklahoma City Thunder, and I was like,
Yeah. So no,
who's in the
OKC
Thunder?
has a different guy they draft in the second. He's not a rookie. That's where I got it mixed. It's Tyrese Proctor for Cleveland. That's played really good defense.
He played at
6'5"
Duke,
point
right?
guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was a guy that was drafted at 49th overall, and he's a point guard. He actually would have been helpful to this Wizards team. So some food for thought, but I want to see Jameer Watkins get these minutes. All right, let's take our second break right here on Locked On Wizards. When we come back in just a moment, we're going to preview the Wizards and Hawks. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in the queue, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. That's where Game Time comes in, an app that gives you the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets easy, fast, and stress-free. I love that what you see is what you pay with Game Time. No hidden fees at checkout. Plus, I could see exactly what my view looked like before I bought tickets with their in-app seat view feature. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section and Game Time picks your seats and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Game Time. Let's get into it. Atlanta Hawks at home. This is an NBA Cup game, isn't it, Abdullah?
Yep.
Oh, geez. Okay. Well, we haven't been too good in those, have we?
Nope.
0
Not
and 10.
even one.
The Wizards are the only team since the inception of the NBA Cup 3 years ago. They have yet to win a game. And to get another opportunity to do it on your home floor where the Wizards have not won since early April last year. Obviously, you have one win this year, and it's on the road in Dallas. So these type of things, home games, have not been kind to the Wizards. It's been unfortunate. We heard a lot of fans that were restless at the arena the last time we were there, and the 23-point loss to the Brooklyn Nets at home. And you get a tough challenge with this Atlanta team that enters 11-7 on the season. They've won their last two, 7-3 in their last 10 after a slow start. And the Atlanta Hawks are playing some
And this
really
is without
good
Tre Young
basketball
as
right
well,
now.
Ben.
Exactly, which makes it all that more surprising. But this was a team this offseason that I pointed to having like one of the sneaky best off seasons in all of basketball. And I was really a fan of like the ancillary moves they made because I guess the Hawks had realized that this was a year where they could actually go after it and try to win because of how depleted the Eastern Conference is right now. And with that being said, they've played really, really well. Loved the addition this year they made when they got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He's been really good for Atlanta, averaging 19 points per game, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He shot at 46.5% from the field. So the moves that they've made essentially have kind of put this team over the top from being that like mid-team they were for the past couple of years. They found a way to maybe be a little bit more above average than people had expected from previous seasons. But the Hawks are going for it right now, and the results indicate even without Tre Young, they're a team that's really tough, especially with Porzingis playing in the middle as well.
Yeah, familiar face. Porzingis back in the DMV. Shout out to Nickeil Alexander-Walker, former Hokie. Love to see him balling on the NBA. But Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, they have some really solid pieces. And I think the way they've been playing, that's been the reason why the rumors around Tre Young being potentially traded out of Atlanta is becoming more apparent. I think they see that they can win games without that point guard in Tre Young. And I just think it's going to be difficult. Porzingis is a big dude, so we're already decimated in the front court without your big guys. You have to find a way for Alex Sarr. Alex Sarr versus Porzingis, that's going to be a fun matchup. I want to see how Alex Sarr can take advantage of a guy like KP, and it's definitely a learning curve. Dyson Daniels, very good defender. You got to figure out, and Zachary Reese-Shea, a guy who a lot of people are saying is the most irrelevant. I don't know if you saw it, Ben, but on social media they're saying he's the most irrelevant first overall pick ever. that's going to be a fun matchup. Number 1 overall pick versus number 2 overall pick from the 2024 draft class. But this Atlanta Hawks team, they can put up points, Ben. And it could get ugly if this Wizards team doesn't play defense. And they've been giving up the most points in the NBA, I think around 130. So if it's going to be like the way you played against the Bulls where you score a lot of points but also give up a lot of points, then you have a shot. But if the shots aren't falling for DC, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, I think so. And you do bring up the matchup between Porzingis and Sarr. I'm really intrigued by this because Kristaps has the size advantage. He's got about 1.5 inches on Alex Sarr. He's got a little bit of weight on him as well at 240 pounds. But this is a matchup where you'd like to see Alex Sarr really try to get after it in attack because he's shown no fear going up against a guy like Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Duren. Sarr's looked good competing up against some of these upper echelon centers around the association. And I expect that to be the same exact way here for Alex Sarr against Kristaps Porzingis. One thing to mention, Porzingis does protect the rim very well. He has so over the last 10 games, averaging nearly 3 blocks in the last 10 games that he's played. He's also shot the ball pretty efficiently, just a little bit under 50%. The 3-point shot over the last 10 is just over 30%, so maybe a little bit down compared to where he's been in his career, which is around 36.5%. But he's a threat. He can score the basketball with the best of them. We got to see it with our own 2 eyes, of course, a couple years ago before we traded him away. He was fun.
He was part of the big 3, man.
He was fun when he was here. I enjoyed him. I was more like annoyed at the situation with Beal having the contract he did more than like bringing Porzingis in. And then obviously they traded him and got a decent haul for him. I can't remember off the top of my head what the return was for Porzingis in that trade.
I think they traded him to Boston. I think. And I don't know if they got actually a lot in return, Ben. But it seemed like it was so long ago. So I just remember when he dunked on LeBron and they ended up winning that game. That was fun.
Yeah, actually, you're right. They did trade him to Boston in the middle of that 2022-23 season. So it's gonna be interesting to see the matchup between him and Sarr, and yeah, as you mentioned, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, other things you have to account for. Can the Wizards get off the schneid? 14 games in a row. If you lose this one, you're at 15 before you face Indiana, one of the other worst teams in the NBA right now, and then if you lose that one, you're right back at that franchise record of 16 that you've got to 3 separate times in the last 2 seasons. You didn't get over it. You ended up winning at the 17-game mark, but is this the year where they break that record? I don't know, EB.
Yeah, the schedule just is not looking good for our Wiz. I mean, outside the Indiana game, the other games just seem pretty difficult. And again, we'll just have to see what Wizards team comes out these next couple of games. Is it a team that's going to come out with intensity, play offense, play fast, or is it going to be a team that's going to be out-rebounded, out-hustled, out-everything? I mean, that's what you're looking at. And if you're a Wizards, a young guy on the Wizards right now, which is basically everyone outside a couple guys, look yourselves in the mirror and say, how do we establish culture? We understand that we're not going to win a lot of games, but this is embarrassing, flat out. Like, being on this 15, 16-game losing streak, everyone on social media clowning you. I mean, like, the Washington Wizards are the butt of a joke if you look on NBA Twitter. Like, it gets annoying. As Wizards fans, we want this team to be competitive. We want this team to go out there and be respectful. It takes small wins it takes small steps like that to win a game. And once you win that game, hopefully you can build something off of it. I'm not saying go win every single game throughout the season, but multiple double-digit game losing streaks, that's just one thing we didn't want to see this season. And so far, it just hasn't gone in our favor. So you're hoping to turn the tide soon.
I just hope somebody on Atlanta or Indiana comments, it's like, don't be that team, and then maybe we'll win.
Man.
Maybe that's the key for
memories,
us to get
man, memories.
Bad memories. Bad memories. All right, but we move forward. Wizards and Hawks tomorrow from Capital One Arena will have the coverage for you.
We'll be there.
Game, as always, of course, NBA Cup action. Let's see if the Wizards can get off the schneid, see if they can get an NBA Cup win. Abdullah and I will have the coverage for you tomorrow. We thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every single day. For your second, check out the Locked On NBA Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by Josh Lloyd, to get your fantasy lineup right. For now, that'll do it here on Locked On Wizards. That's Abdullah Youbi. I'm Ben Strober, DC Family. Talk to you tomorrow.